If there's two things to know about me, it's that I love Captain America and I am chronically online. I may not have seen the sun or touched grass in the last year, but at least I've been able to see the rampant misinformation against Brave New World take over in real time. Oh, wait, that's bad too. Man, the internet kind of sucks. There's been a ridiculous amount of misinformation out about this movie, and as a diehard Captain America fan, it makes me sick. People saying things like there have been non-stop reshoots, when in reality, it's all completely untrue. I don't blame anyone for believing these rumors, they spread like wildfire and are practically unavoidable. But the sad truth of it all is that these lies have clouded fans' vision of the film and given them a preconceived notion that it's gonna be bad. It's frustrating to see, as this is a character I care deeply about who doesn't deserve this kind of narrative run against him. I've paid more attention to this movie than people I know in real life, so I'd consider myself an expert on this topic. On top of that, though, I've spent the last week researching how this all happened to set the record straight. Let's start with the elephant in the room and the biggest lie out there, the reshoots. It's the hardest one of these to disprove because it's rooted in reality to an extent. But to clear things up right off the bat, there were not multiple rounds of reshoots at all. It's become common knowledge that Brave New World was delayed from July of 2024 to February of 2025 to undergo some reshoots. The news came towards the end of 2023 as a result of the writers and actors strike. While they may have wrapped principal photography before the historic and very needed SAG-AFTRA strike began, it caused a seismic shift throughout Marvel's entire slate and directly impacted Brave New World's post-production schedule. And honestly, it was a blessing in disguise. 2023 was a bumpy year for Marvel and acted as a wake-up call for Disney that they needed to give the studio more time to breathe. There was a mandate in place to make as much as possible in as little time as possible, and the effects of that were really starting to show. Believe it or not, that's not a good business model. To fix this, Marvel's entire slate was pushed back as 2024 became a quieter year for the studio as they could now take more time to perfect each project, starting with Captain America. Through feedback they were getting both internally and through test screenings, it became clear that the action in the film wasn't living up to the standards set by the Captain America franchise. Winter Soldier's fast-paced, hand-to-hand combat is still praised to this day as the MCU's best, while Civil War was a dazzling display of hero-on-hero violence. With this being the cinematic introduction of Sam Wilson's Captain America, if the movie doesn't at least meet the very high bar they set, it's gonna be a bad look. So Marvel did the right thing and delayed the film so they could put more time and effort into making these action scenes work. Their first step was to bring back James Young, the stunt coordinator behind movies like Infinity War, Endgame, and of course, both Winter Soldier and Civil War. It's a smart move to bring back the guy who set the bar in the first place and a very good sign of things to come for the action in this film. And if the trailer is anything to go by, he cooked! Now, to finally circle back around to the reshoots needed to strengthen this film, Marvel scheduled 22 days going into the summer of 2024. And that's it. No, seriously, that's all they've done. Throughout the entire process of making this movie, there have only been 22 days of reshoots to rework the action scenes only in this film. This included the introduction of Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder in the film as they cut the original Serpent Society sequences and replaced them with his character. It is so hard to say Serpent Society I've done so many takes of this, I'm going insane. So now you're probably left wondering how the narrative surrounding the film became multiple rounds of extensive reshoots, and that's exactly how I felt. I was completely confused trying to figure out how the exact opposite could become the consensus, so I did some digging. As it turns out, it all traces back to a rumor from the ever-unreliable Jeff Sneider. On the same day Brave New World was delayed, he reported that the film would be getting extensive reshoots after negative test scores, and that 3 major sequences will be cut, with reshoots happening from January to May, which is insane looking back because it couldn't be further from the truth. But at the time, nobody had any reason to doubt this because back then he had a pretty solid track record, and with how timely his report came, surely it had to mean something, right? Wrong! Just do yourself a favor and look the other way whenever he's reporting something. He gets a few things right here and there, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. And in this case, he's done a lot of damage to Brave New World's reputation. The reason this rumor stuck, though, is because we didn't learn the truth for months. Keep in mind, Snyder's report came out in November. It wasn't until May 31st of the next year that The Hollywood Reporter put out an article to set the record straight on the day the reshoots began. So not only do we finally find out the truth, but it happens on the very last day of May, which was when Snyder reported that the reshoots would end. He completely got the date and the time frame wrong, but this lie had already been ingrained into everybody's heads. They directly called out the incorrect reporting of multiple reshoots and made it clear that there will only be 22 days and they won't even be very extensive. The article reads, and I quote, "Despite reports of multiple reshoots on the movie, so far, this is the only one. It does not appear to be as extensive as the reshoots that faced Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, nor the expensive and extensive reshoots endured by the Marvels. To put that into perspective for you, Multiverse of Madness went through 6 weeks of significant reshoots. Avengers Endgame had over 1 month of reshoots and was reshooting in January, just 4 months before the film's release, as they tried to streamline the narrative. And we like that movie! Brave New World's 22 days is nothing compared to that, and pretty par for the course when it comes to the MCU. But unfortunately, the damage had already been done. People had 6 months to believe that the extensive 5 months of reshoots was the truth, and it's hard to break through that kind of lie. No matter how many reports we've gotten about the film's production going well, people already believe that they had this wide window to remake an entire movie. And once something is out there in the world and becomes public knowledge, it's damn near impossible to shake the foundation built in people's heads. Sure, you can report on the new information all you want, but making people believe it is a whole other story, let alone the fact that so many people probably didn't see this new report as it flew way under the radar. This narrative became so common that Anthony Mackie had to address it in a recent interview. And that man is never serious. That's how you know this is a big deal. He went on the record to state that it wasn't retooled at all. Every Marvel movie I've done has done reshoots, so it's not retooling or remaking. You basically get the movie and the story you want, you edit it together, then go back and shoot a few more scenes. Do you know how bad online misinformation has to get for the star of the movie to directly address it on the press tour? I'm very glad he did too, because more people need to see that all this reshoot talk boils down to is 22 days just to make the action of the film better. And if you're up to date with the news, you're probably waiting for me to talk about the reshoots that happened a few months ago in November of last year. And I'm here to tell you, those never happened either. Despite so many people propagating the idea that the movie was undergoing reshoots 3 months out, it all traces back to a fundamental misunderstanding of how the film industry works. Back in November, they were doing a very brief set of pickups that had been planned since the beginning. For the uninformed, a pickup is a very minor shot in the film to help bridge gaps or fix issues they only found during post-production. This usually consists of getting new takes of shots that didn't come out the way they hoped, or things like insert shots to make the film flow better and not have such jarring editing. It lasted only a few days and goes a long way in making sure the continuity of the film is airtight. Pretty much every film goes through this. It's a normal and expected part of the process, but because of how annoying scooper culture is online for the superhero genre, we're being clued into every part of the film's development and hearing things we were never supposed to. And for people who aren't familiar with these terms, a reshoot this close to the movie's release would sound concerning. One little misunderstanding of what was happening in November spread so fast that the correction that they were pickups barely made any traction. It just continues to build on this narrative that the film has gone through round after round after round of reshoots, despite that not being the truth at all. And on reshoots in general, they've cultivated such a negative stigma for some reason, despite being so common in the filmmaking process. In the case of Brave New World, they've only reshot action scenes to make the film more exciting, and from what reliable sources have reported on, they've done just that. Marvel clearly knows what they're doing in this case, as they only want to make Sam's first cinematic outing as Captain America as good as possible, which I really appreciate. Like, yeah, obviously it should have been like this from the beginning, but with how the studio was operating at the time, it's nice to see them slow down and make necessary changes to improve the film's overall quality. Okay, you know what? I'm on a roll here and feeling good after debunking that one. Let me address a smaller misconception that's been really annoying me: Brave New World's reported budget. Because as of right now, we have no specifics on what the movie's budget is. Simple as that. Hi, hello, how's everybody doing? It's currently January 23rd as I record this. I finished editing this video like a week ago by now, but now we finally got an update confirming what Brave New World's actual budget will be, as it comes in at $180 million. Which, by the way, is fantastic. This is the lowest budget Marvel has had for a film in over 3 years. And for a movie that reshot most of its action scenes, that's really impressive. It means that they wanted this to be much lower from the start. And just for a quick comparison, Deadpool and Wolverine was $200 million. The Marvels was $270 million. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was $250 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was $200 million, Wakanda Forever was $250 million, Love and Thunder was $250 million, Multiverse of Madness was $350 million, No Way Home was $200 million, Eternals was $236 million, and Shang-Chi was only $150 million. That means that Brave New World is one of the cheapest Marvel movies in years, and yet there is so much misinformation about this film that is spread for months. Past me is going to get into that in a few seconds, but just like the reshoots, it's crazy to me that misinformation can be out there for months, and now the narrative is this insanely high number for the movie, when in reality, it's one of the cheapest Marvel movies in years. And as of right now, Brave New World is currently eyeing a 95 million 4-day opening weekend, which is really good. That's on track with movies like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and with a clear run in the box office and good word of mouth, this has potential to be really profitable. I just think it's really important to set the record straight on that, because there is so much wrong information about this film that I might as well just get into now. So take it away past me. So why is it that when I type it into Google, it gives me this astronomically high number? Believe it or not, it's because of another lie spread by another unreliable source. News outlet, and I'm using very heavy quotes around that, World of Real was the first and only place to report this budget for the film, proudly proclaiming that it had a budget of $375 million because they basically reshot a brand new movie, despite that not being the case at all. If I didn't just spend like 5 minutes debunking all that stuff around the reshoots, their reasoning would make a lot of sense, so I understand why people who aren't in the know would fall for this. But here's the thing. This article was disproven before it ever even dropped. This lie was posted on June 27th, almost a month after the aforementioned Hollywood Reporter's big Brave New World article. And you'll never believe what juicy nugget of information they dropped on us there. And I quote, "In fact, one insider says Brave New World will cost significantly less than the Marvels overall. If we look at the numbers here, the Marvels had a budget of $270 million, which already is much less than what World of Real over here had to say. And I am much more compelled to listen to the Hollywood Reporter, considering the fact that they're the leading news site for this stuff with real connections in the industry. So to put that rumor to bed, Brave New World will have a budget that is significantly lower than $270 million, which is honestly impressive for an MCU movie that reshot their action scenes and gives me a lot of faith that they're doing this grounded story justice. And while we're talking about World of Real, let me disprove them a little bit more as a treat. If, for some reason, that wasn't enough for you, let's take a look at how unreliable their founder, Jordan Rumi, is. For starters, dude can't even write his own articles. Here's proof of him plagiarizing a story from a Reddit post almost verbatim. Couldn't even copy homework and change the answers correctly, and he expects me to think he's a trustworthy source? This is someone who is quick to write an article on anything just to gain traction, no matter the validity of the information. No journalistic integrity or anything, just lies for the sake of profit. If you want to see some proof of World of Steel making something up, here he is complaining that Bong Joon-ho's next film got delayed because of Warner Bros. Interfering, only for Bong to come out and clarify himself that he has final cut privileges on the film. This is the same guy who reported 2 years ago that Christopher Nolan would direct 2 Bond movies. Obviously that never ended up happening, but it's so embarrassing to look back on it all. Do you not have any shame spreading misinformation like this? There's a litany of other examples I could bring up, but in the future, please just do me a favor and don't trust Worlds of Real. He'd just be saying anything, and it's doing so much more harm than it is good. The reason I went into that tangent is 1, because I'm sick of seeing that site being treated like any source of credibility, and 2, because of the next lie they've spread about Brave New World. Through all the rumors I've debunked so far, nothing is actually about the quality of the film itself, just behind the scenes information, until now. In October of 2024, he reported that Brave New World bombed at test screenings. And despite all I've told you about them thus far, this rumor spread like wildfire. I could not go 5 minutes on Twitter without seeing it against my will. I saw this rumor more than my own family. I can't tell you what my own brother looks like anymore, but I could recite every word of this article from memory, and that is a problem. There is so much wrong with this article, like how they reference other debunked rumors throughout it as they're clearly trying to paint this film in a bad and untrue light, or claim that they changed the release date to February and dumped it there, despite one of their most successful films, Black Panther, also releasing during that month. But the main crux of this article is allegedly based on one person's opinion from a test screening. Even if that is true, which is impossible to prove with them, I have it on good authority that this person is an exception to the general reception of the film. That's right, your boy has made it big time and has sources of his own. I reached out to Captain America News on Twitter for clarification, someone who's been giving reliable information on Brave New World for the last year and a half. Remember that article about James Young from earlier? Yeah, they broke that story. They were able to confirm to me through never-before-seen set pics that they had a contact working on the film, along with the fact that they knew someone who participated in the test screenings. From what I've been told, the film has tested very well internally and that a different person loved what they saw from it. Like all films, everything is subjective. Even if that person did hate the movie, someone else loved it. We shouldn't take one person's opinion as a fact. Instead, we should wait to form our own. But people love to fearmonger with articles articles like this and put the idea of a movie's quality in our head before ever even seeing it. So feel free to take that as you will, but I'd like to think someone with actual contacts has more credibility than a bozo who lives off clickbait. I have such a high right now disproving all this stuff. I feel like a god. I want to run through a wall. But before I do that, I have one last thing I need to set the record straight on because, man, it is so frustrating how often I have to see this take. A large part of Brave New World's marketing has highlighted Sam's tech upgrades. He's got a sleek new suit and, more importantly, a flight helmet to match. On the surface, that makes sense, right? Sam is going to be flying at Mach speeds and breaking the sound barrier. Of course he'll need a helmet so all the skin doesn't melt off of his face. In a grounded movie like this, it is a welcome upgrade that's rooted entirely in reality and needed for these high-speed action scenes. But if only the internet wasn't such a terrible place filled with deception and misinformation. A large percentage of people have been tricked into thinking this is because either Marvel or Disney want to hide Sam's face, as they aren't confident a black man as the lead could sell a movie. Ugh, God, I feel like I need to take a shower just saying that out loud. But also, that sounds insane to you too, right? Take one look at the movie's marketing and you'll see Anthony Mackie's face everywhere. He's on posters, t-shirts, toys, packaging, even a fucking Happy Meal. He's everywhere. They aren't trying to hide things in the slightest and have fully embraced a black man being the next Captain America. This next rumor I'm about to go through started 7 years ago when some guy on Twitter, who is a bigot by the way, so I'm not going to give him credit and say his name, pointed out a comparison between the US and Chinese versions of the Black Panther poster. Obviously, without any context, that looks bad. Covering up a black man's face in an attempt to trick audiences into watching a movie would be horrible. So it's great that that isn't what's happening here at all. He was just cherry-picking information because in reality, this is the Chinese Black Panther poster. Chadwick Boseman's beautiful face on full display for the world to see. Admittedly, The Force Awakens had a genuinely bad example where they made Finn as small as possible on the Chinese poster, but latching onto one bad example when there are dozens of other positives isn't doing anyone any good. Those isolated incidents should not define the marketing when they are very much so the exception. Wakanda Forever didn't have a single poster covering anyone up, and this is what Brave New World's main Chinese poster looks like. No helmet in sight at all. It's almost like the reasoning for its existence lies solely in practicality and nothing else. I appreciate that people want to err on the side of caution for something like this, but this rumor has been so easily disproven over the years, and it's incredibly annoying that it continues to live on. See how hard it is to disprove this stuff? I am exhausted. I had to make this long-ass video with thorough research while someone can blindly post a tweet without a source and the world eats it up. Scooper culture is such a plague against comic book movies and an unfairly easy way to turn the public against a film before it even releases. I'm not even exaggerating. Look at this article I found when researching the video. They wrote this based on all the rumors I proved were wrong here and already formed their opinion on the film. I have my work cut out for me trying to show people the truth, and I really hope that this video has some kind of positive effect. I know I'm probably going to get called a shill for making this or that I'm glazing the movie, which partly is true, I'm not going to lie, but this is something I'm incredibly passionate about. I feel like I've been going insane over the last year watching a smear campaign play out in real time as misinformation spread like the Black Plague in a hospital. Captain America does not deserve his name dragged through the mud before his film even releases, especially when everybody is doing so in bad faith for the wrong reasoning. If you aren't excited for the movie because of how it looks or the plot they're going for, that's totally fine. You broke my heart and damaged our friendship forever, but it's fine, I guess. Not every movie is going to be for everyone, but if you're actively rooting against this movie based entirely off of rumors, I hope I was able to clear your vision and give you the capability to go into this with an open mind. It's so much easier to make someone believe something is going to be bad when they're already preying on its downfall, so I just have to hope that in spite of everything, Brave New World will be successful in a good movie. Then again, if it does end up being bad after I did all this work on this video, I'm going to look like the biggest idiot in the planet and I'll probably never show my face in public again, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. In the meantime, why don't you let me know down below if you're excited for Captain America Brave New World or not, and if this video cleared anything up for you. I'd genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, you may as well give the video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I think I'm gonna go run through a wall now. Subscribe and I'll show you the footage. Ah!